Introducing the new MacBook Air with a fresh design unlike anything you've ever seen. The widest bezels so white your eyeballs might fall out of their f***ing sockets. We looked at the current MacBook Air and said this is far too heavy and thick for any person to appreciate. So we looked at our closest piece of paper and just doubled it, and this is what we got. And our users around the world told us just how much they love the notch, so we are bringing it here today to the MacBook Air. And for a more consistent design across our entire lineup, we're even installing the notch on Apple Park so that everyone realizes that it is the right choice. This is the right choice, and I like the notch, and I'm excited for the notch to be on the MacBook Air as well. We have so much Mac news to talk about today. So what are you waiting for? If you're excited for today's video, drop a like down below. It seriously helps me and the channel out. And click that subscribe button and turn on the bell for notifications so that you never miss a beat. Or I'll freaking beat you up. Bop. That was for the one person that didn't hit the subscribe button. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, so kicking things off here, over the past year in 2021, we've gotten some huge Apple Silicon releases, from the M1 iMac behind me to the brand new M1 Max and M1 Pro MacBook Pros. What we have not seen is a replacement for Apple's 27-inch iMac, at least yet, and we've heard from sources that it's coming in 2022. But aside from the release date, we really didn't have any other details about the screen size, the processor, the colors. Until now, when Dylan DKT pulled up with an insane amount of details about this upcoming iMac Pro redesign, and oh my god, I want this computer. Dylan DKT, he has got me bricked up, and it's months away still. So kicking things off, this computer is going to look very similar to the 24-inch iMac we got, mixed as a crossover with the 32-inch Pro Display XDR. But unfortunately, this is like the only negative that we've heard about this redesigned iMac Pro so far. Well, the screen size is staying the same. And listen, while I was wanting a larger, like 30 to 32-inch display on the next iMac, I think Apple's making up for it in everything else that they're bringing here. Like, mini LED is going to be the dominant display tech, so way better black levels, way better contrast. It's going to look so, it's going to look unreal. Because there's also 120 Hertz Pro Motion coming, which is my favorite thing Apple's been adding to all their devices. It's on the iPhone 13 Pros, it's on the iPad Pro, it's on the MacBook Pros, it's now going to be on the iMac Pros. Can you see the pattern of Pro technology here? Let's talk about specs. Apparently the base model here is going to have 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD along with an M1 Pro chip. And that's what's going to be inside of here, is exactly basically what we're getting with the MacBook Pros. M1 Pro and M1 Max chips, but Dylan does note that there could be an additional configuration in testing, and I am crossing my fingers that this would be something like an M2 Pro or an M2 Max, like something even more powerful than what Apple unveiled with the MacBook Pros. Because like, I love it and they're plenty powerful, but I'm always wanting a little bit more power. On the back with the ports though, things get pretty interesting. So there's the things you would expect, like USB-C ports and an SD card reader on this Pro iMac, but there's also going to be an HDMI port, which could mean one of two things. One, perhaps Apple would allow you to just plug stuff into this iMac and use it as a monitor. That's kind of me dreaming. I don't think that's the most realistic, but that would make this computer worth it for some people alone, just because of how good the screen is. Number two, most likely, is that it will just be used as an easier way to connect to an external display. So rather than having to run this through USB-C or Thunderbolt, you could just plug an HDMI and have an external monitor right next to you, like that easily without any adapter. You might say, what about the Ethernet, Sam? I like my Ethernet port. It's gonna be there, shorty. All right, the Ethernet port's gonna be on the power brick, just like the current iMac. If you buy the higher tier versions, you have Ethernet built into the power cord. I tried it out for myself, and it was awesome. So when is this coming out? This iMac is set to launch in the first half of 2022. I see that happening. I am really starting to feel a March, April type beat event, just like we got in 2021, where we will get some new stuff, predominantly this new iMac Pro. And, now that we move on to this next section, I just thought I should prepare myself, and I wanted to go ahead and grab this, because we are going to war, and I am prepared to fight pretty much every last one of you brutally in the comments down below, and I am tightening up. All right, so here's the deal. On the MacBook line, I really like the notch. I think it's absolutely incredible. I think it's the right choice, and I think Apple is proving themselves to be thinking outside of the box here, and just hear me out. Number one, this is laying the ground for Face ID in the future, which infinitely makes more sense on a Mac than Touch ID ever has. Like, why do I have to look down on my Mac to use Touch ID ID when Face ID would make sense, where I could just look at the screen, look at my content from far away. It's the right choice. Number 2, while the bezel is thick here for the camera housing and will be about that thick in the future for the Face ID array when it comes to the Mac, the rest of the bezel is insanely thin. It's thinner than we've ever seen on a MacBook, and it's not even close, and that is absolutely worth it for me. So effectively, Apple has added more screen here while maintaining the 16:10 resolution. And number 3, it just fades into the overall experience, and you don't even notice it or mind it after maybe a couple minutes of use. But that's actually not why I put the helmet on today. I know that there's going to be a lot of you that disagree with those notch takes. It's to tell you that it is coming on the new MacBook Air. Like, unironically, the next MacBook Air that also comes out around the time of the new iMac Pro, it's gonna have a notch on it. And this computer is also gonna have white bezels, according to John Prosser and Renders by Ian, who have shared their latest updates and renders on this machine. I mean, we've known for a while that it's coming in 2022, but we didn't know it was gonna have white bezels. We certainly didn't know it was gonna have a notch, and I think this looks awesome, and it's a really great way for Apple to differentiate this computer from everybody else out there. What I really mean is that it differentiates the non-Pro and Pro computers in a very aesthetic way. Like, I think the white bezels on the iMac work. I remember at first I was like, I don't like them, they're bad. I need to loosen this. I'm like actually getting a headache, holy. Like, initially I didn't like the white bezels on here, but then they came to grow on me really fast. And Apple's gonna do the same thing on the new MacBook Airs, where there's a ton of colors and a lot of variety, just like on the iMacs. On the inside though, everything is gonna be white bezels, white keyboard, white notch. I hear white people might even use this computer, and I want to be clear, I'm just speaking for me here. Maybe this is the most fish stick take I've ever had on something, but I like the colors and the combination with white. I just don't think it would look proper if it was black. And I think Apple's tested it out, and they've also felt the same way, which is why they're going in this direction. As for the ports on here, there's going to be 2 USB-C ports, a MagSafe charging connector, which is dope, and then also a headphone jack. So the headphone jack remaining once again on the Air. While you guys are arguing about that in the comments though, some of you watching were probably like, wait, something feels off about this computer. Like, it's not the colors, it's not the bezel, it's not the keyboard. Oh, what's up with the thinness, or really lack of thickness here? Like, this looks impossibly thin to the point where you could just cough a little bit wrong or maybe get a little sick and it's like, oh, gotta buy a new MacBook. It just broke from the force of the air here because it's that impossibly light. But Mark Gurman has said it's gonna be even thinner and lighter than the current model, and this lines up with that. I just don't really think I'm gonna believe it till I see it. It's just one of those things where I'm like, this looks a little bit too pog. You know, it's a little bit too good, and I just don't know if Apple's really gonna like quadruple down on the thin and lightness factor, but maybe they do. What do you guys think? Is it actually gonna be this thin? Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something new. Yeah, you guys are the best. Love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye.